All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our discussion with Philip of Nice, a TP technology partner in AI analytics, and how we're unlocking the full potential of customer service in today's increasingly complex CX environment. My name is Dave Rizzo. I'm the regional president for Teleperformance, or TP, in the APAC region. I've been with TP for the last 21 years, 18 of those here in the Philippines. Now, joining us today is Philip Mercier, Vice President, Analytics Sales for Asia Pacific at NICE. Hello, Philip, and thank you for joining us. Tell us about NICE's Nexidia product.
Hello, Dave. Thanks for having me today. So, Nexidia is our leading platform for omnichannel analytics. But this is also the platform that we are partnering with on the TP Interact, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about the kind of benefits it can deliver to a customer and facing the different challenges we have today in the market around CX and digital transformation.
And so, Philip, I'm curious to understand in today's business landscape, we see growing digital adoption by clients, and particularly so here in APAC. What are some of the expectations arising from this trend?
You're very right, Dave. I think that we've seen a shift of expectation, actually an acceleration of new customer expectation. I think that the COVID did indeed, accelerate two trends. On the one hand, you have companies that are, doubling down on digital. They are looking to reduce cost. We know that digital offer a lot of opportunities in this area. From a customer standpoint, there is this ongoing rise of expectation when it comes to convenience. And today we get to a point where companies are facing first the fact that 80% of the customers, typically when they are interacting with them, are somewhat looking for a digital solution. You call that self-service. It's more than that, actually, because think about you as a consumer. Whenever you have an issue, very likely the first thing you're going to do, by the way, is Google that issue. Has this issue happened to anybody else? Next thing you're going to do is very likely see whether there is something on the website. Is your app offering any form of self-service? So that's 80% of the case. Another thing that is interesting is that almost half of the people that are interacting with you will have tried 3 to 5 channels before reaching out to your agent. So it means that they are really expecting a frictionless experience. Of course, whenever you are, starting a process, let's say with an app, keying in some information, and then you realize that you have no choice but to be handed over to an agent, you would expect that everything you've said, you don't have to repeat that. And obviously, if you have to, not a great experience. And that's part of this kind of hyper-personalization that customers are expecting more and more. I think that's the next thing on the line is the fact that, yes, customer experience is becoming more and more tricky. We have stats showing that, or studies showing that, almost half of the customer having a pretty bad experience are willing to switch brands. So the sanction is pretty heavy. So that's the kind of new environment. And what I would say is that you have this on the one hand, and on the other hand, think about where most of the customers are standing right now. For the most part, for the last 5 years, they have invested in some form of bot, self-service. But on average, those kind of self-service capabilities are only addressing 9% of the issues that customers are bringing on the table. So it's pretty disappointing, quite frankly. So it means that very likely your customer will have no choice but to explore another channels or talking to an agent. The other thing also is that, Dave, we are in APAC, and we know that the maturity is something that, it's still, it's growing, but only 25% of companies do have some form of analytics to understand what's going on. And to start with, why are those customers calling me, and what kind of issues do they have? So they are still struggling a lot to understand what is causing the volume of call, what is causing a good or bad experience. And I think that's kind of the challenges that we encounter a lot. Another thing that I'd like to emphasize is that, yes, we know that today, again, most of the customer experience is very much related to the skills of the agent. It can influence a lot whether you have a good positive interactions or not. However, when you think about many companies today, when it comes to coaching their agent or leveraging any form of quality management, they are still in the dark age, and they are relying on some kind of legacy solutions. Sometimes it's down to Excel when it comes to doing evaluation of interactions. Usually they are only focusing on 3-5% of the interactions, which is very low coverage. Quite frankly, give them little clue about why an agent results in a bad experience or not, and what kind of guidance or recommendation we can start emphasizing on through the coaching program. So that's what we see. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to have maybe your perspective also on some of the other challenges that you see across your customer.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I agree. Customers prefer nothing more than a consistent experience between the channels they choose when engaging a brand. TP, we've been positioning digital solutions to address market nuances, languages, customer expectations, and more. But unfortunately, there still tends to be a lack of synergies and approach inside many businesses, particularly between social and traditional CX channels, which lead to a lack of adoption of potentially preferred engagement channels or solutions for their customers, such as analytics, and at a minimum, driving that consistency. So, Philip, how are AI analytics key in understanding and surpassing CX challenges? And in the future, how do you see them influencing the CX experience completely?
Thank you, Dave, for the question. So one easy way to think about that is to put that in a time perspective. Analytics has been for a long time allowing you to have some form of descriptive approach of what was going on. So it was really about helping customer to identify the caller intent. The complexity now is to do that across multiple channels on a very seamless fashion. Next wave was, all right, I got the descriptive piece, I want to have the diagnostic piece. So Nexidia, typically with TP Interact, we are pretty good at that, as being able to dig into the caller intent, establishing correlation, being able to tie this to some business objective you may have, whether it's CSAT or sentiment or HT, repeat call, you name it. Now, what AI brings on the table is to get into two new phases. The first one is around predictive. So yes, the use of machine learning, the use of those new models allow you to have some predictive models. You can use that different way. You can say either I want to predict a business outcome. Is there any form of risk of fraud, churn, complaint? Or you can also use that as, what is the likelihood of the sentiment, analyzing the specific customer, the agent behavior. So that's already one step. And we use that with this platform called Enlighten behind the scene. And the last piece, which is a prescriptive, which is, what is the next best action? So now you get into positions where, combining all of that, the analytics and the AI, you are becoming prescriptive, not only to your customer, but also to your agent. You can use the combination of real time, pushing some guidances on the fly, and you can also point, recognizing the intent and suggesting, for instance, in a use case around sales effectiveness, this is how you are maximizing AIs to push the right right promotion at the right times or the right script and so on. But I think that this is its evolution, which is interesting and giving us some new opportunities down the road. What do you think? Is there any other trends that you are facing?
Yeah, so there's a few points here. So we spoke about TP Interact, which is our interaction analytics solution, leveraging Nexidia as our platform in APAC. There we're able to analyze any type of interaction on any channel in any Asian language and bring additional and valuable insights to our clients. To your point, we see a rapidly increasing trend in chat volume in China, obviously the largest digital interaction market of the world, where we invest our resources in social channels like WeChat, Weibo, Douyin, and others. We can deliver for brands engaging with their customers in those channels, not to answer all interactions, but rather filter out the noise, do multi-dimensional tagging by means of machine learning, AI and natural language processing, or NLP, and help brands differentiate themselves in a competitive environment. So I think that's probably one of the positionings and the solutions that now sits at the forefront of the engagement rather than behind. Managing social media can quickly represent a challenge due to the fact that there are many platforms where data resides. So knowing what data to get, how to filter it, how to build customized tagging framework, what voice to pay attention to can be very complex. And this is where the AI technology helps the human quickly sort through, again, all that noise and focus on the relevant insights. On the other end, in Southeast Asia, for the super competitive e-commerce space, it becomes a little bit different with more highlights and how to empower sellers. We see an increased demand from one of our partners in this space to understand the different touch points of friction for buyers and sellers and help in brand bonding and gross merchant value growth. And then from an employee perspective, we leverage the platform to gain success into customer sentiment algorithms, which are deployed particularly on non-voice with 100% interaction coverage. There, thanks to machine learning, we can analyze at phrase level the sentiment of the client and quickly detect when a conversation does not go as planned. So to your point, we find where the keywords or situations when specialists have triggered an unhappy customer, and then can go back and design and execute smart and personalized coaching to specialists for future better outcomes. So, in summary, across APAC, and despite some slowness in digital adoption as a support means, we do see more and more demand from clients around QA transformation, which is far better way to start analyzing much larger volumes of data, and then to provide new levels of insights with relevant transcripts, identified root causes for actionable plans. And then these tools help our quality assurance people avoid focusing on the mundane, the repetitive manual process, and provide more time to focus on really, what adds true value.
Great. And I think that's the last thing I would like to say, should there be any of our attendees today having a double, thought about whether they should go on this journey or not, is that, on average, with what we've seen for the last 3 years in APAC, is the average ROI we've seen on this is 9 months, meaning that not only you have usually very impactful savings, whether it's on cost reductions or, as you said, increasing conversion of sales, but it becomes really a building block that is unlocking a lot of value. So looking forward to having a lot of opportunity to help our customers across APAC together.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dave, for the feedback.
You bet. No, on programs where we've deployed TP Interact, we've seen up to 40% CSAT improvement, 15% in customer churn improvement, and an impact of 30% greater sales effectiveness to advance the client bottom line. So I agree. There's no debating the results and their value. Philip, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone else for watching and joining us today. We look forward to reviewing all of your comments and getting back with you very soon. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dave. It was a pleasure.